Ciao, babies. So amused, while being a delicate subject for any writer, is not a source of inspiration, even out of pain, but is something much more, heeding of the path not taken. The muse exists for a poet because, in my view, he has stolen the flame. He's viewed what should not be viewed, and psychologically debates with himself whether it was or was not a conscious decision to reckon the universe. He spends his time reflecting on a previous experience with clarity, perhaps to a terrifying extreme. The question thereof looks to him more like I'm trying to recall to the exactest consideration whatever visions I had. But someone who is outside, it looks like dealing with a crisis, getting over trauma, rather what is or is not conscious. It is conscious, just deep-rooted. And conscious decisions can float to the surface over time. After all, that's why we slap our head 6 hours after the incident and say, that's why I did that. Much simpler than I thought. I don't know. I feel sometimes that we are all reflections of nothing, that the mind is a void, is of the same makeup, but exists. A void that exists. It has the behavior of a void, but as a physical thing, it is. As opposed to a void, there can be only one type of nothing. Nothing. So how is this possible? Enough nothingness back to solid. I mean, I don't know how I feel about art creating us. I think film is a slowed down version of life. For example, I thought in a split second of walking home after smoking a spliff. Then suddenly it seemed so long. And for an even smaller measurement, within that split second, the street to the avenue stretched out somewhat like the vertigo shot in movies. I didn't even see that imago, but for the shortest period. There was no truly visible, purblind at best, vision of this elongated street. If there had been a movie playing in my head of what I was thinking, I'm sure a vertigo shot would be included and would be accurate besides in duration. Film is overplaying that by approximating gives, oddly enough, a clearer picture. Perhaps not a realistic one. How is it possible then that there can be an accurate, plausible storyline in the head of somebody, anybody, that if written or depicted at all outside of the mind would not be real? Or at least accurate. Sounds like a void, existing uniquely, as one might say, is to not exist. And I'm so glad that people have the humility to doubt reality, because that is the closest we can get to appreciating something. It is blind perception. It lives. The story lives. And as a shape and on one level, we would look like puppets to something more graceful. Humility is a human invention. I mean, half of the word is a part of it. Saying that art spurs a doubting of reality. There's nothing more human than art. Agreed. But the opposite is what I'm saying. It's what separates us even from the most liminal being to achieve beauty, grace, meaning, to communicate. I'm saying that liminal beings are shed, that humanity is a class in itself. We create and reason. That is our likeness to God. The novelist has the audacity to say that a fictional human's travails are important enough to reach the universal. That is by ways of the personal, as Harold Bloom would say. Ironic that the novelist is her own God. In that way, inspiration is willful, though. Which is why I said a muse is different. It's an outsider getting in. Never had a muse, so I have no sufficient base. Yeah, just my own thoughts on it. But I believe you do. Because it doesn't have to be a person. It can be an idea. Or something you want to perfect. Because the flame is there. Any poet steals it. Any poet of merit. But we cannot communicate it. In the same way our thoughts sit outside our minds. So we spend time trying to. If there is any muse or person, or idea, it's Mark Rothko. I think about him every time I set myself to a artistic task, and I tried to do with words what he did with color. I wouldn't call that muse, though. You know, I really don't think I even have a definition for muse. I don't trust any definition for that. It is unique to the individual. Like denotative. It's just a specific image of beauty. Usually a female, or male, if you're gay, that inspires somebody to write of her, or him. But it can also be an image of loss. Nope. No muse. Well, that's why I'm saying fuck the denotative definition. Exactly. I think it's something anyone who expresses themselves has. I go about it similar to the soul, but specifically something that one gazes on in themselves. That maybe it's not themselves. Like Kierkegaard's dialectic of the soul, that is, the soul can't be lifted into view. The muse can. However chimerical it is, really. So it's cool that you say Rothko. Something that one gazes at. An image of beauty. Whether in the idea behind the image or the image itself. Something that causes you to be inspired. That's it. Like, in a nutshell, to me, I love your words and how you use them. I wish I could. I can't really discuss anything. I pretty much just go by a set of rules that I feel constitute a serious artist in the work. Or rather something that causes one to be inspired by something. So that you struggle to create that something, that causa prima. It's supposed to meet the ball, la causa prima. That's why I speak of voids. To me, they represent a key that unlocks the causa prima. And an appreciation of nothingness is humane, logically humane, if you consider how powerless we are, ever further as to how impossible it is. That makes us feel powerless. The ideal. Open your mind to new rules. As weird as that sounds. I mean, regarding the life of the serious artist. Psychology. You'll have to forgive me. I have trouble responding because I like to reflect on what you're saying before I respond. And what you say has so much to it. And it's more than a template. Hey, I hope you can see I bring it all back. Or try. Yes, it's like a tone row, kind of, musically speaking. That is why I depict a thought narrative, to explain the vertigo shot. The narrative that is a puppet on a string. Like, seriously. We as people are aware of so little. Myself included. I can only make what I am aware of behave like the idea of a will-less narrative in my head. Film. But I can't know each plot device or arc, turn in the story, etc. Or cinematic trope, especially. It's not the actual narrative. But in words, it behaves like one. Like the one that is. That I can't know. Similar to maybe something that exists in your head. The perception blurs into the real experience of existing. Outside of your head. All of us looking at each other see the puppet. You see the man. So you do your best to portray the man, and by extension of a very much personal quest, you accomplish the task of communicating, and it becomes a universal constant, and speckled here and there. Vague doubts, voids, room. The only thing, or things, permanence. The void. It is Blake. Contraries. Poetic crossing. Lines in relation to other lines, and then the Lucretian swerve. Leap of faith. Anomaly. You're good at that. Poetry is an act of surprise. That, in my opinion, is your strength. And like I said, an existence can have the behavior of nothingness. A brain's leap of faith. Trust. But perhaps not based in anything but the need to remove a habit, maybe. Like spending too much time counting boxes. Counting faster, removing the doubt, but using it as a jumping off point. Even if it is that you doubt the efficiency of your intellectual processes, which involve making too sure of the amount of fucking boxes because you doubt. No one thought up being he who thinks he has. Step forward. Jim Morrison. A habit can be, I believe the world is tenuous and bound to collapse at any moment. But we can see it as, I need to count faster. The poet can experience an intellectual crisis and spend his life making sense of it, and still see it as exploring an injury, not coping with indelible pain. My situation is slightly weird because the denotatively speaking muse had caused me to spiral out of control. So it was all separated regarding the aim of each event. The attempt, the end of love, the crisis. It was all on me, but other people created the narrative. So I guess you could say to write a novel about my life would be to create, apart from the experience, but redeem myself from it by making myself the creator and the creation, as opposed to feeling willless and powerless as to the effects of other people who have written this novel that is my life as of now.